Welcome to another day of cooking. I am in one of these really busy days that sometimes all of us have. I have like 7 events on the calendar. And so right now, I have noodles that are finishing up boiling. I'm gonna take them over to the sink and give them a quick drain. This is actually a great opportunity, even before I've told you what all we're doing today, to talk a little bit about how this works when I'm in a hurry. So I just dumped these noodles into the sink to drain them. I'm taking cold water because nobody's eating for a while in our house. So I need to dump this cold water and I need it to stop the cooking. And then I'm going to end up putting it in the same container it was boiled in with some additional cold water. So oftentimes I have a little sprayer function too I can use. One nice thing about this is it gets a lot of that extra starchy feel off of the pasta, which I kind of appreciate. And then the pot tends to have all this residue because we're using like chickpea pastas and stuff like that. So I often like to take a moment to just give the sides a little rinse down on the pot so that I'm not putting it back in all the yuckiness that it was before. But sometimes people use oil to keep the noodles apart. I have just found I don't want to add that extra to our family's diet because we're going to often pre-cook our food. So I'm making this, I'm going to fill it so that it's level for both the pasta to be in there. And then it's going to be a cold noodle salad actually. I haven't even told you what we're making. We're making an almond noodle salad, which comes from the Whole Bowls book. And I'll show you the picture in a moment. It's so beautiful. But so here this is. It's nice and cold. And it can just sit in there covered. And we can use a strainer utensil, which I'm actually going to show you too. So let me actually readjust. Hello. It's like we're dancing together. I have a strainer utensil that I can then just use to scoop out pasta later on when I want to put it into the bowl. And it doesn't have to be hot, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm going to set this over here for now. I'm going to put the lid on this and turn off my burner because I don't need it on anymore. And then let me take a moment to show you this beautiful salad. So this is an almond noodle bowl salad with basil, radish, tofu, carrot, red peppers. It's just so gorgeous. So she just calls it what it is, almond noodle salad with radishes and basil. It comes from this beautiful book, Whole Bowls, written by a woman named Allison Day. She also runs the yummybeat.com blog. It's amazing. And because today is the busiest day, I started prepping dinner when I was making lunches. So I had a couple extra minutes while I was doing the kids' lunches. So I went ahead and I pulled out my food processor and I got those radishes thinly sliced. I peeled my carrot, ran that through the food processor, so that's all grated up. And then instead of walking to the bus stop, we drove to the bus stop so that I could cut up my basil, which made my hands smell beautiful for my first meeting. So these are cut into various size pieces. It's really tasty, this basil stuff, when you add it to the salad. So you can cut that as finely or not as finely as you want. It's really up to your taste. And if you were cutting that, you would take it off the stem, go down one way, and then do a rocking motion, as we often talk about. Another thing that I did then, after I dropped one at the bus stop and came back, was cut up my tofu. So the recipe calls for a smoked tofu, which you can mimic that with some paprika and some other spices. You can look up a recipe for faking it. But I actually like the sauce that goes with this recipe, so I'm not going to bother with that on a day like this. And then this chickpea rotini. So Barilla just started selling this in bulk at the wholesaler, which makes me so happy. But you want to be careful. So when you're buying specialty pastas, this comes in an 8.8 ounce box. So the recipe itself calls for 1 pound of pasta. I want to double that. But even if I made 2 of these, I'm only at 1 pound. So I made 3. Sometimes you just gotta keep an eye on that with the specialty pastas. They shorten the amounts in, and then you're sitting there being like, why don't we have enough food? I just don't understand. So yet to be done is to cut up my peppers. The recipe calls for 1 carrot and I don't know how many radishes. I always just make a bunch because I don't care. I just want to have like lots of fresh veggies around. And we love topping our salad with as much vegetable as we feel like. We don't want to have to be like, ooh, don't take all the radish. So I just buy a whole bag of radishes and I cut them up. And then when it comes to the peppers, I'll go ahead and make 2 peppers instead of 1. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm cutting around the white. So I like just make a cut and then I avoid the white. That's how I get into my peppers. Then I just take the little bottom piece off and cut it too. So after that, you're just talking about thin slices. And by thin, it's sort of like whatever makes you happy. So different people have different texture desires and preferences. So I'm creating peppers that are roughly that thick. And I would actually be fine with them being that length. But I'm going to cut it in half for all of our little people's mouths so that they're not having to do so much work. I don't know if you can remember being a kid, but like I remember when, what was it? Trix changed from all their cereals being round balls to being the shape of whatever fruit it was supposed to be mimicking. So there's like grape and I don't know, lime and I don't know. There was all these different shapes. And suddenly it was just way harder to eat that cereal because all these little edges were poking around in my mouth. So, you know, we get older, we don't always process how texture affects us. Although, talk to a few adults, they will tell you they think about it too sometimes and are irritated by it just as much. So, I once watched a woman cutting up all of her vegetables with a steak knife, and I inquired about it because it was taking a laboriously long amount of time. And her reasoning was she liked everything perfectly diced. That's what helped her eat her vegetables. So I think, well, I totally get you. If that was like way too much time, which it would be for me, I think you'd want to move along to those pre-cut vegetables you can get in the store or those frozen ones that are pre-diced for you and stuff like that. So these are my peppers. The recipe called for 2 red. I went with a red and a yellow because they were my oldest peppers in the fridge, and I want to make sure to use stuff like that up. I'll kind of mix them around so that they're nicely integrated. And honestly, like thinking about some of this stuff too, if you were like, I don't like radish, so sub out cucumber. Cucumber goes really well in Asian-inspired foods. You know, just something that makes you happy. And then the last step of this is to make our sauce, which I also had put together a little earlier. I just didn't get it whisked up. I got all the ingredients in a bowl and then I left the house. So 1 serving of this includes a 1/3 cup of almond butter, 3 tablespoons of soy, 2 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar, 2 tablespoons of sesame oil, 2 tablespoons of miso, garlic, a tablespoon of ginger, a clove of garlic. So it's kind of your usual suspects. I have a triple batch here. So this is kind of, I'm guessing this is roughly 3 cups of dressing. But the recipe calls to drizzle this dressing and sesame seed oil over the salad. I'm only going to use this dressing. And so the directions call to thin it out by the tablespoon as you see fit. So when I have something like that, I find it way too laborious to keep going back and forth to the sink. So what I'm going to do is grab myself some water in any form, right? In this case, it's a measuring cup. And I do want to thin it out because I want it to act as almost a vinaigrette. And I actually know I've got a lot going in here, so I'll just start with 2 tablespoons and incorporating throughout. This was a fresh jar of fresh almond butter too, so it's actually going to have quite a bit of, it's like more oily when you get the fresh one, even though I'm like going past the oil and dipping down. But I want this dressing to basically be able to run off of my whiskey thing, and it doesn't right now. So I'm going to keep adding. I'm going to add 2 more tablespoons because I know we're nowhere near. But if you were only doing a single batch, 1 tablespoon at a time would be fine. I just am working with a lot. Just a note, I have also done this sauce with a peanut butter powder. And our family loves a peanut sauce. So if you're not allergic, all the better. But the peanut butter powder would allow for you to have a lower fat meal if that's something that you need. And I just guess at that point what a third of the peanut butter powder needs to be, and it's never exact or perfect, and that's fine with me. I just don't mind kind of playing around with that. And I think you see it with chefs too. Like, I've been watching a lot of Queer Eye, so it keeps coming up on these videos. But, you know, and their chef there, Anthony, he's not usually even measuring. He's like, just put some of this and then give it a taste. And that's kind of how chefs do. I'm going to go with another couple tablespoons. But the consistency of your almond butter that day, or your peanut butter, if you started with a peanut butter powder and you had already added a lot of liquid, it's going to change depending on the ingredients you were using. And so you want to kind of adjust for that, not be frustrated by that, not let it affect you in any kind of way. Your forearm may well get sore, as mine is, from all that stirring. So another tablespoon in, because I want to keep getting it a little more liquidy. We're getting there. It's getting there. But I want it to feel like a sauce or like a dressing. I don't want it to be like a paste, like glop, glop, right? I want it to move around well in my salad. Because it's basically creating that moisture, and it's going to create all this flavor. And I think that is the absolute most awesomest thing about the Whole Bowls book. She takes regular foods that a lot of people wouldn't be that excited about ordinarily, and she gives them this delicious sauce, and suddenly the whole meal is transformed into this magical thing that you would eat over and over and over again. Also, I will tell you, my husband will overuse this sauce, so diluting it, not a bad idea. Don't tell him I said so. But just so you know, he's sitting really close to me right now. So, that's good enough, and it's a little lighter, which kind of helps me to know that we're where we want to be. And in fact, her picture, it's like almost a white, it's so light. So, this is a really good consistency. And that is the meal. You could garnish it with some sesame seed for some beauty, but you got that basil, you got so many colors, orange, red, yellow, pink, green, and then your pasta, and then your sauce. So many beautiful colors. I love that about these fresh dishes. I hope that this is helpful for you. And this is, again, how do we do it in this house? How do we make it happen? I did a little cooking when I ran in one moment and ran in another moment, and then I finally finished, and in like 4 hours, I'm probably gonna pack mine and eat it in the car, right? It's not even gonna be the best possible. Our children will get to eat at the table, but I will go on to have evening meetings, and so that's what it is sometimes. But at least it's not yet another fast food through the drive-thru, why do I feel so sluggish, have trouble in the bathroom kind of a meal, right? This is a really healthy, energy giving, my body feels good, it looks good, that's bringing all these pleasure centers together, right? Through the eyes, through the taste buds, through the nose, your body just feels good. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.